Thank you. Now we go to Rushanara Ali.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This finance bill fails to meet the scale of the economic challenges, and it fails to provide the kind of growth that is needed to recover from the pandemic, not to mention the impact of Brexit. Unemployment's already at 5% and is set to rise to 6.5%, and some groups have been particularly hit hard, especially the young, where youth unemployment is at 14.3%, and those from minority backgrounds face much higher levels of unemployment. Business investment has been in decline for many years, and the pandemic has not made matters, of course, any better. And we know, and we've heard a great deal about the productivity rate being incredibly slow and has been slow for the last decade. So instead of focusing on the big challenges facing the country in terms of tackling the jobs crisis, particularly around youth unemployment, promoting growth, what we see is the government reverting to its comfort zone with an irresponsible tax hike, council tax hike, which is going to create even bigger pressures for families who face the most unprecedented of challenges over the last year and huge adversity, particularly ordinary families in constituencies like mine, where the level of child poverty is among the highest in the country. And by freezing the threshold for personal income tax allowance, this bill introduces a stealth tax on households. Meanwhile, the so-called super deduction gives tax cuts to some of the biggest businesses in the country, including those who've done particularly well during this pandemic, when the support should be targeted to companies that need much greater help, where there is a greater need for support. It's as if the government has learned nothing from this crisis by taking funding away from families that need help desperately. Which takes me on to the issue around the universal tax credit, which is going to be reduced back to the original level later on in the year. And we know that millions of families are going to suffer when that happens. So that's why I believe that this finance bill does not support families. And of course, the tax cut, the stealth tax that's been introduced, is going to hurt ordinary families, including, of course, our NHS heroes and other key workers who've sustained us through this pandemic. Madam Deputy Speaker, this finance bill does not go far enough to support the 700,000 young people who face unemployment. Only 1 in 49 are eligible for support through the Kickstart programme, and the government didn't take the opportunity in this finance bill to provide additional support to get those young people back to work. In conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, despite the fact that local councils like mine have had to spend a great deal more because of the pandemic, there's nothing in this finance bill to support them. There's very little to support our public services when they face such an unprecedented crisis. The bill lacks the ambition that is desperately needed after the biggest economic hit for generations. It lacks the ambition to get the unemployed back to work, bold action to increase investment, productivity, innovation, and to create the green industrial revolution to power our economic growth in the face of the double hit of the pandemic and the 4% long-term hit on GDP as a result of Brexit. It hits families hard when they need to be supported, and it lacks the ambition to match the scale of economic and social and healthcare challenges exposed by this pandemic. I will therefore not vote for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.